I think you're right. I think that, as I've recommended before, Stu, anyone could go in and file a complaint with a law enforcement authority for murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and demand that people be arrested and prosecuted. And by the way, I did want to draw to the attention of your audience this press release, 2013, where these messenger RNA Frankenshots come from. DARPA awards Moderna Therapeutics a grant for up to $25 million to develop messenger RNA therapeutics. So notice DARPA is the Pentagon. Let me repeat that. DARPA is the Pentagon. The Pentagon bought, paid for, envisioned these mRNA Frankenshots. And I should also point out, Fort Detrick was involved in the development of COVID-19, the offensive biological warfare weapon at the University of North Carolina, BSL-3. So the Pentagon is both sides of the argument here. They're developing the weapon and the alleged vaccines, which is also a weapon. But the proof is right here.
So there's not a law, as far as we understand from where we sit, in this country, federal level, state level, municipal level, that protects anybody from deploying a weapon of biowarfare. It doesn't give them any kind of liability shield. There's no immunity to liability in a sense. So wouldn't it be true that this narrative about congressional liability for Pfizer is kind of a psyop?
That's correct, Stu. The liability, that deals with civil liability, payment of damages. Here, we are talking about criminal responsibility. And in my book, Resisting Medical Tyranny, I outline the case for why the executives involved in the companies developing these mRNA Frankenshots are guilty of murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Yes. And you saw that report last week from Portugal that upwards of 300,000 Americans now had been murdered as a result of these mRNA Frankenshots. So this is quite serious. We cannot tolerate more Americans getting murdered by the Nazis who run these corporations. And if you look at the JAB resolution, clearly what we have here is twofold. A violation of the Nuremberg Code on medical experimentation, exactly what the United States government prosecuted Nazi doctors for at Nuremberg, and some were executed. Now, I'm against the death penalty, so okay. But that gives you the idea of how severe the situation is. And then second, as the JAB resolution correctly says, this is a Nuremberg crime against humanity. And Stu, since this is so important, let me read for you the definition of a Nuremberg crime against humanity. This was put in the Nuremberg Charter by the United States to deal with the Nazi persecution of German Jews. Let me read this here.
Yeah, please.
Crimes against humanity, murder, extermination, and other inhumane acts committed against any civilian population. The American people are being treated here like the Nazis treated German Jews. 300,000 are now dead. When are we going to stop this?
Yeah, what is the threshold for death exactly? That brings me to another point. So you're talking about the executives at the companies that help to manufacture and then distribute these shots. What about the people inside of our government? They wouldn't be immune from criminal liability either. They ordered this up, in a sense, didn't they?
That's correct. That would depend on certainly the FDA that has approved these Frankenshots. They violated the Nuremberg Code on medical experimentation. and have committed a Nuremberg crime against humanity and arguably are responsible for or could be indicted for murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Again, that requires mens rea on their part and malice aforethought. My book basically dealt with the chief executive officers and the chief scientific officers for the mRNA Frankenshots. But yes, the FDA officials who approved it have accountability as well. I should also point out, Stu, that the FDA itself was involved in the development of COVID-19 as an offensive biological warfare weapon at the UNC BSL-3. Let me read to you the contract. And it says who helped develop this thing, among others, National Center for Toxicological Research, Food and Drug Administration. So the same people, the FDA, the same agency that is approving these Frankenshots, these Nazi Frankenshots, have been involved in the development of COVID-19, an offensive biological warfare weapon with gain-of-function properties that were applied at the University of North Carolina BSL-3, Stu.
With Ralph Barrick's involvement, this is where Ralph Barrick comes in.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. So, and then what about moving downhill to the CDC, who recommended these, who is adding them to the childhood vaccination schedule? What about the media, who ran with the safe and effective narrative? Fox is still airing commercials. It's time for your next booster. Go get your next booster. These people clearly, the BBC hitting me all the time, saying that I'm a conspiracy theorist, a radical conspiracy theorist on these shots. What about accountability for these people as well?
I think the CDC also has accountability. The current director, Walensky, Biden appointed, she's from the Harvard Medical School. Harvard Medical School is also involved in the development of the COVID-19 at the UNC BSL-3 with Ralph Barrick along with the FDA. The CDC has been up to its eyeballs in offensive biological warfare weapons going back to the Reagan administration, when the Reagan administration authorized the CDC and American-type culture collection to ship 40 shipments of weapons they knew were weapon-specific biological warfare agents to Saddam Hussein in Iraq in the hope and expectation that he would weaponize them and use them against Iran. And then U.S. troops, after Gulf War I, went in there, blew these biowarfare labs up, and contaminated themselves.
Are there politicians, are there members of our federal government, I'm talking about, in the House of Representatives or in the United States Senate, that are on committees that had the intel about this gain-of-function weapon of biowarfare being, manufactured, concocted, and whipped up at Fort Detrick, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, that the FDA was involved? I mean, ostensibly, it would seem to me that there would be people inside of our government that would know and have a forethought that this was going to happen.
I think Senator Rand Paul, from what I've seen, is the one who has the best comprehension of what's going on here.
But did they know beforehand? Did they know that this was going to be developed at the time? I mean, would they have known this? Would they have received intel documents that said, hey, we're going to make a weapon of biowarfare here in the United States, we're going to ship it offshore, and then we're going to release it on the world population?
Well, Stu, I've been saying this for many years. If you take a look at there's a award-winning documentary called Anthrax Wars 2009 by Cohn and Nadler. You can get it online, dealing with the existential dangers presented by these BSL-3s and BSL-4s. And they asked me, because of my expertise, to consult with them. And at the end of this documentary, I say in the starkest terms possible, this is a catastrophe waiting to happen, unquote. Now, that was 2009. So, yes, at least my viewpoints on these matters have been out there in the public record. Indeed, in 2001, I was the first to blow the whistle on the fact that Amerithrax came out of a U.S. biological warfare weapon and weapons program and laboratory. That was November 3 at Harvard Divinity School, where the Council for Responsible Genetics was holding its convention, and I was conducting a workshop against biological warfare weapons. I said that to Fox TV, November 3. The next day, or the Monday after that, I said it to Pacifica Radio Network. And then I was on the BBC. The whole world heard me. And then I was censored off of everywhere after that point. An order was given. And no mainstream news media, Western mainstream news media, has ever interviewed me again.
So I'm going to ask you to speculate here a little bit, and I know that you like to stick with facts, but what is the gain for the people who whipped this up and then released it? What is the gain for DARPA, the Pentagon, Ralph Baric, Fauci, EcoHealth Alliance, Peter Daszak? What is the end goal here, I guess? What's the end game?
I think it's population control and reduction, Stu. If you read the reports now, worldwide, there have been excess deaths of about 12 million people. So I think that's the ultimate goal. Remember, that goes back to the infamous national security directive by Henry Kissinger, that it is in the national security interest of the United States for our policy to be population control and reduction. I've never read that was released. And then, of course, everyone's making large amounts of money off of this as well.
As a lawyer, you represented world governments in the International Court of Justice. Why wouldn't any of so you're no hack. Why wouldn't any of our elected representatives in the Senate or Congress take you seriously when you're warning about this? Why would they write you off like that?
I believe they've been threatened. I've been in touch with members of Congress about this matter and soon thereafter they were threatened. For example, the one member of Congress was consulting me on one matter, and I raised with him the Ebola pandemic in West Africa. Walter Jones, he was a very powerful member of the House Armed Services Committee. He was consulting me on another matter, getting my legal opinion. And since he represented Fort Bragg down there where everyone were being deployed, I said, Congressman, he knew my expertise. I said, Congressman Jones, this West African Ebola pandemic came out of the Kenema BSL-4. It's extremely dangerous. And I think you've got to do something to keep your troops there from being deployed by the Obama administration as a propaganda stunt. It's extremely dangerous. This is biological warfare at work. And Congressman Jones said we discussed the matter, and then he said I'll get on it right away. I'll put my top staffer in touch with you. And we'll get on this right away because these were his constituents. What happened? I was completely cut off. Obviously, someone had threatened Congressman Jones. He no longer returned my phone calls, no emails, no messages, no one in his staff either. Now, who would be able to threaten an extremely powerful member of the House Armed Services Committee to not even act on behalf of his own constituents there? And what was that threat? I don't know. But this personally happened to me, yes. And even after Congressman Jones died, I sent condolences to his office. They didn't even acknowledge receipt of my condolences.
I think we probably know why. Certainly not every sheriff has been gotten to. Do you think that that's the course of action here, is for citizens to go to their sheriff and report that they've been assaulted with a weapon of biowarfare?
Yes. And also go to your district attorney, state's attorney, county attorney. I'm dealing with the county attorney down there at Collier County. He's involved in drafting their health freedom declaration. We're making progress.
And then there
that.
needs to be an enforcement mechanism in that
That's
resolution for how we move forward and what we do with the people who are responsible for this deployment, and then what we do with the stockpiles of this deployment. I think it's pretty clear at this point. I mean, it needs to be seized, it needs to be incinerated, and then the people responsible for it need to be put on trial and handed down sentences.
That's not to excuse the Chinese Communist government. They knew full well they were developing an existentially dangerous offensive biological warfare weapon with gain-of-function properties, with HIV, DNA genetically engineered into there, and that was subjected to nanotechnology to aerosolize it. This stuff will travel up to 30 feet in the air. So I'm not excusing them at all, but they were developing it.
The Wuhan Institute of Virology then is, by definition, a bioweapons lab.
Pardon me?
The Wuhan Institute of Virology then, by definition, is a bioweapons lab.
Oh, yeah, that's China's Fort Detrick, Stu. What happened was, obviously, President Xi there decided that he wanted to play with the big boys, and the big boys had a BSL-4 like we do, our Fort Detrick, or the British at Porton Down, and he was going to have his own BSL-4 and his own panoply of offensive biological warfare weapons, just as bad as anything we have. Right.
Funded by the U.S. taxpayer, and there's no shortage of that going on around the world either, as we have reported on this program ad nauseum. Dozens of these bioweapons labs, just like the Institute of Virology in Wuhan, located in Ukraine, where we're sending hundreds of billions of dollars, and now we're getting reports about the same happening in Taiwan. Interestingly enough, the military-industrial complex wants U.S. boots on the ground there. Lindsey Graham, the Pfizer whore, the fossil in the D.C. Beltway there, is advocating for U.S. boots on the ground in Taiwan. Seems that they know where all of the bodies are buried, Professor Boyle. Thank you so much for coming here. We certainly appreciate it.